Welcome to this scientific exploration of deep frying. Today we're going to examine a fascinating question. How does oil temperature determine whether food absorbs oil or repels it? The answer involves vapor-driven mass transfer, not simple soaking as commonly believed. When we place food into hot oil, we observe vigorous bubbling. This bubbling is not oil entering the food, but rather water vapor escaping from the food. This is the key insight that unlocks our understanding. Let me pose the central question clearly. Why does food fried at the correct temperature contain less oil than food fried at incorrect temperatures? The common misconception is that oil simply soaks into food like water into a sponge. This is fundamentally incorrect. The reality is far more interesting and involves phase transitions and pressure gradients. Food has a porous structure containing water. This water is distributed throughout the cellular matrix. When we heat this food in oil, the water undergoes a phase transition from liquid to vapor. The phase transition of water from liquid to vapor is the fundamental driving force. At 100 degrees Celsius, liquid water becomes steam with a massive volume expansion. The volume expansion ratio is approximately 1600 to 1. 1 milliliter of liquid water becomes 1600 milliliters of steam at atmospheric pressure. This enormous volume expansion creates significant internal pressure within the food structure. This pressure drives mass transfer outward, not inward. The vapor pressure of water is strongly temperature dependent. This is described by the Clausius-Clapeyron equation, but we can understand it more simply. The vapor pressure increases exponentially with temperature. At room temperature, water has low vapor pressure. At 100 degrees Celsius, it reaches atmospheric pressure. Here we see vapor pressure increasing exponentially with temperature. At 100 degrees, we reach 1 atmosphere. Above 100 degrees, pressure exceeds atmospheric, driving vigorous boiling. Now we arrive at the critical question. What happens at different oil temperatures? Let's examine 3 regimes. Below 100 degrees, at optimal temperature around 170 to 190 degrees, and above optimal. If oil temperature is below 100 degrees Celsius, water inside the food cannot boil. No vapor pressure gradient exists to drive water outward. Without vapor pressure to create an outward flux, oil can slowly penetrate the food structure by capillary action. This results in greasy, oil-soaked food. The food becomes a passive sponge. At optimal frying temperature, typically 170 to 190 degrees Celsius, we have vigorous boiling at the food surface. Water vaporizes rapidly at the surface, creating a continuous outward flux of vapor. This vapor flux prevents oil from entering. Simultaneously, a crust forms at the surface due to the Maillard reaction and dehydration. The outward vapor flux creates what we can call a vapor barrier. As long as vapor is escaping, oil cannot enter against this flow. This is a pressure-driven mass transfer problem. Mass flux equals negative diffusivity times concentration gradient plus convective velocity times concentration. The convective term from vapor outflow dominates and is directed outward, preventing oil ingress. What determines the magnitude of this vapor flux? The answer is the temperature gradient and the rate of heat transfer into the food. Heat flux equals heat transfer coefficient times area times temperature difference. Higher oil temperature means more heat flux, which means more rapid vaporization. Heat flows from the hot oil through the surface into the food interior. At the surface, this heat vaporizes water, creating the protective vapor barrier. The surface stays near 100 degrees as long as water is available. What happens if the oil is too hot, say above 200 degrees Celsius? You might think more vapor means better protection. But there's a problem. At excessively high temperature, the surface forms a thick, impermeable crust very rapidly. This crust can carbonize and burn. Moreover, once the surface is sealed, the interior cooks slowly, leading to unevenly cooked food. The thick crust acts as thermal insulation, reducing heat transfer to the interior. You end up with a burnt exterior and raw interior. Additionally, thermal decomposition of oil accelerates above 200 degrees. Let's do a back-of-the-envelope calculation to estimate the mass transfer rates. Consider a French fry, approximately 1 centimeter in diameter and 5 centimeters long. Diameter equals 1 centimeter, length equals 5 centimeters. Surface area equals pi times diameter times length, approximately 15.7 square centimeters. Let's estimate the heat flux. The heat transfer coefficient for boiling is approximately 500 to 1000 watts per square meter Kelvin. We'll use 700. H equals approximately 700 watts per square meter Kelvin. Temperature difference equals 180 minus 100 equals 80 Kelvin. Heat flux equals 700 times 80 equals 56,000 watts per square meter. Total heat transfer equals heat flux times area equals 56,000 times 0.00157, approximately 88 watts. The latent heat of vaporization of water is approximately 2200 kilojoules per kilogram. How much water vaporizes per second? Latent heat equals 2200 kilojoules per kilogram. Mass flow rate equals heat transfer divided by latent heat equals 88 divided by 2,200,000, approximately 4 times 10 to the negative 5 kilograms per second. This equals approximately 0.04 grams per second, or 2.4 grams per minute. A typical French fry contains about 2 grams of water initially. At this rate, most water would be expelled in under 1 minute of frying. This matches experimental observations. At time 0, the fry is full of water, approximately 2 grams total. After 30 seconds, significant water has escaped as vapor. The vapor flux is still strong, preventing oil entry. After 60 seconds, most water is gone. A crust has formed. The vapor flux weakens, and now oil can begin to enter the food structure. Here's the critical insight. Most oil absorption occurs after cooking, during the cooling phase. When you remove food from oil, the vapor flux stops. As the food cools, the internal pressure drops. The vapor that was escaping condenses back to liquid, creating a partial vacuum. This vacuum sucks oil into the porous structure. When steam condenses back to liquid water, it undergoes a 1600-fold volume reduction. This creates significant negative pressure inside the food. The pressure drop is approximately atmospheric pressure times the ratio of steam volume to total volume. This can create substantial suction. How do we minimize oil absorption based on this physics? First, maintain optimal temperature. Second, avoid overcooking. Third, drain immediately after frying. Keep oil between 170 and 190 degrees Celsius. Use a thermometer. Don't overcrowd the fryer, as adding cold food drops temperature. Cook only until the food is done. Overcooking evaporates all water, after which oil absorption accelerates. The goal is a thin crust with moist interior. Drain on a wire rack, not paper towels. Paper towels trap steam, which condenses and creates the vacuum effect. A rack allows air circulation. On a wire rack, steam can escape in all directions. This prevents pressure buildup and subsequent vacuum formation. Less vacuum means less oil sucked in. The crust that forms during frying plays a crucial role. An ideal crust is permeable enough to allow vapor escape but structured enough to provide texture. A good crust has microscopic pores that allow vapor to escape. These pores form naturally during the dehydration and Maillard browning process. For those interested in the deeper physics, we can analyze this using the Biot number, which compares external heat transfer resistance to internal conduction resistance. Biot number equals heat transfer coefficient times characteristic length divided by thermal conductivity. For our fry, characteristic length equals volume over area, approximately 0.0025 meters. Potato thermal conductivity is approximately 0.5 watts per meter Kelvin. Biot number equals 700 times 0.0025 divided by 0.5 equals 3.5. A Biot number around 3.5 means there are significant temperature gradients inside the food. The surface reaches 100 degrees quickly, but the interior lags behind. We can also examine the Fourier number, which is the dimensionless time for heat diffusion. Fourier number equals thermal diffusivity times time divided by characteristic length squared. Thermal diffusivity for potato is approximately 1.4 times 10 to the negative 7 square meters per second. For Fourier number of 1, which represents significant penetration, time equals approximately 45 seconds. This matches the typical frying time. Let me share some experimental evidence that supports this vapor barrier model. Studies using MRI imaging have tracked water and oil distribution in real time during frying. MRI studies clearly show water content decreasing from the surface inward during frying. The water front moves progressively toward the center. Oil content remains low during active frying but increases significantly during the first 30 seconds after removal from oil. This confirms the vacuum suction mechanism. Here's a schematic of the progression. Initially, water is distributed throughout. During frying, water escapes and a crust forms. After frying, oil penetrates the dehydrated regions. Different foods behave differently based on their initial water content and structure. Let's compare potatoes, which are high in water and starch, versus breaded chicken. Potatoes contain about 80% water with a cellular structure. They produce vigorous vapor flux and can achieve very low oil content if fried correctly. Breaded chicken has a coating that provides an additional physical barrier. The coating itself can absorb oil, but a good coating also helps trap moisture, enhancing the vapor barrier effect. Let me pose another question. Why do foods fried from frozen often turn out greasier than fresh foods? The answer relates to ice crystal damage. When food freezes, ice crystals form and expand, rupturing cell walls. This creates larger pores and channels in the structure. The damaged cellular structure has much higher permeability to both water and oil. Water escapes more rapidly, but oil can also penetrate more easily afterward. In commercial frying operations, oil quality degrades over time. This affects the frying process. Let me explain the changes that occur. Fresh oil has low viscosity and provides clean, efficient heat transfer. The vapor barrier forms reliably. Degraded oil has higher viscosity and contains polar compounds from hydrolysis and oxidation. These polar compounds have higher surface tension and can more easily wet the food surface. Surface tension of degraded oil is actually lower than fresh oil due to surfactant compounds. Lower surface tension means easier penetration into pores. Degraded oil penetrates food more easily, both during and after frying. This is one reason why oil should be filtered and replaced regularly. Let's estimate the internal pressure during vigorous boiling. The pressure must overcome both atmospheric pressure and the resistance of the food structure. Internal pressure equals atmospheric pressure plus the pressure drop needed to drive flow through the porous structure. Pressure drop equals viscosity times velocity times length divided by permeability. This comes from Darcy's law for flow through porous media. Typical excess pressure inside frying food is 0.1 to 0.5 atmospheres above ambient. This modest overpressure is sufficient to maintain the vapor barrier. The crust formation involves the Maillard reaction, which is a chemical reaction between amino acids and reducing sugars. This reaction requires temperatures above 140 degrees Celsius. Maillard reaction temperature must exceed 140 degrees Celsius. This is why the surface must dehydrate first before browning can occur. While the surface is wet, it stays at 100 degrees and no Maillard browning occurs. Only after dehydration can the surface temperature rise above 140 and browning begins. Let me do one more calculation. How much oil can potentially enter the food based on the volume of water that leaves? If 2 grams of water evaporate from a French fry, this creates a void volume of approximately 2 milliliters inside the porous structure. Void volume equals mass of water divided by density of water equals 2 divided by 1 equals 2 milliliters. Maximum oil mass equals density of oil times void volume equals 0.92 times 2 equals 1.84 grams. In practice, oil absorption is only 10 to 20% of the void volume if frying is done correctly. This is because not all pores are accessible and the crust blocks some pathways. A well-fried French fry weighing 5 grams will contain 0.2 to 0.4 grams of oil, or about 5 to 8% oil by weight. Let me summarize the key physics principles we've covered in this lecture. First, the phase transition of water from liquid to vapor creates a 1600-fold volume expansion, generating outward pressure. Second, This outward vapor flux creates a barrier that prevents oil from entering during active frying. This is convective mass transfer. Third, optimal frying temperature, 170 to 190 Celsius, maintains vigorous boiling without burning the surface. Fourth, cooling causes vapor condensation, creating a partial vacuum that sucks oil into the food. This is the primary mechanism of oil absorption. Fifth, crust formation and permeability control how easily vapor can escape and how much oil can later enter. Based on this physics, here are the practical recommendations for minimizing oil absorption while achieving good texture. Maintain constant oil temperature at 175 to 185 degrees Celsius using a thermometer. Don't overcrowd the fryer. Adding too much cold food drops the temperature below the optimal range, reducing vapor flux. Remove food as soon as it's cooked. Undercooking leaves it soggy. Overcooking removes all water and allows more oil absorption. Drain on a wire rack in a single layer, allowing air circulation and steam escape from all sides. Serve immediately. As food cools further, more oil can migrate inward and the crust softens. An advanced technique is double frying. This is used for French fries and other foods to achieve maximum crispness with minimal oil. First fry at lower temperature, around 160 degrees Celsius. This cooks the interior and removes much of the water without forming a thick crust. Then rest the food for several minutes. During this rest, remaining moisture redistributes evenly throughout the structure. Second fry at higher temperature, around 185 degrees. This rapidly dehydrates the surface and creates a thin, crispy crust. The double fry method produces a superior texture, fluffy interior with minimal oil and an ultra-crispy exterior. In conclusion, the key to understanding frying is recognizing it as a vapor-driven mass transfer process, not simple soaking. During active frying, water vapor flow dominates and acts as a protective barrier against oil entry. Proper temperature control maintains this protective vapor barrier throughout the cooking process. Proper handling after frying minimizes the vacuum-driven oil absorption during cooling. Understanding the underlying physics allows us to understand why traditional cooking techniques work and how to optimize them. The science explains the art.